stomach, there's a pain. You walk in my direction, I go the other way. I start to stutter with a speed. You understand, but my knees go weak. What's happening to me?
Welcome back to my YouTube channel. I am Kmarie. I also go by TheOfficialKmarie on all social medias. And today's video was highly requested. So if a lot of people don't know, about 4 or 5 months ago, I was actually living in Houston, Texas. That did not work out. I dropped a video, which I'm gonna put right here, which was pretty much the apartment tour. Everyone has been asking for an update or asking me to go ahead and decorate. But unfortunately, I moved back to Illinois. I am originally from Illinois, so this is my hometown, and everyone was asking me to do a video about what happened. So this is pretty much going to be that video. And I'm just gonna go ahead really quickly and just speak through what happened. Now that I feel like that chapter is closed in my life, I feel comfortable going ahead and speaking about it. Long story short, I moved to Houston. Me and my cousin, Danielle, she passed away probably like 3 years ago, I want to say. I'm so sorry if that was wrong, but I honestly tried to not remember it, if we're being honest, because we were like this. That was like my heart right there. And we would always talk about moving to Texas. She already lived in Texas. She was born and raised in Houston, and she lived in the Katy area at the time, and I would go and visit, and I loved it. Don't get me wrong. We would have a great time. Unfortunately, she passed away, and I still felt like I was obligated to keep my end of that agreement and move to Texas. So I thought about it for like a year after she passed, and I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna go ahead and move to Texas. I didn't pray about it. This is gonna be important for later in the video. I didn't pray about it. I didn't talk to God about it. I really didn't talk to anybody about it. I literally just got approved for my place. Went there a week before my move-in date to see the place. Like, I was literally just jumping because I felt like this is what I was supposed to do. Long story short, I'm gonna keep saying that because I'm trying to get to the point here because I don't want this video to be super long, but it was terrible. I did not like it. I was very sad, very alone, because I felt as if I moved there sooner and I wasn't procrastinating, because I was really scared to move because I was leaving everything and I was just moving to a new state, like my job, my everything. But I didn't know how to say that to her at the time when she was still alive. So I just kept procrastinating, like next month, next year, yeah, I'm gonna do it. It's kind of like those trips that you make with your friend in the group chat, but it never leaves the group chat. That's literally how it was for us. And unfortunately, like I said, she passed away, so we were never able to hold that end of the bargain pretty much. So I felt bad and I jumped the gun and I moved. Beautiful place. I put it on YouTube. Everything was great. So I thought. The first sign that I started to see all the time is I honestly did not feel comfortable. My place was great, but I honestly did not feel comfortable. I had a gut feeling something wasn't right. They were keying cars, they were breaking into cars. Everything was just completely not what I thought it was. So I'm really big on signs. So I'm like, okay, is this a sign that I shouldn't be there? Or is it a sign that I should be there, but the enemy is trying to show me that I should not be there? Strike number one. I stayed there, everything was fine. Then second strike was my job stated that I would be able to move and go there in March. So I signed my lease December or January, and I knew that I would just have to pay the rent while I wasn't there. At the time, I knew I was moving, so I left my home here and I moved back with my mom for those couple months because I had the intention of simply just packing up my stuff and moving. My job then changed their mind and said that unfortunately we would not be going 100% remote until September. At that time, that would almost be a whole year of me paying rent in another state, but not being there. So I'm like, oh no. But back to what I was saying. I didn't know if it was a sign from the enemy to try to make me feel like I shouldn't go there and distract me from what God is really telling me to do, or if it was a sign from God that this is not what I asked you to do. Third strike. my car. Like, getting my stuff there was ridiculously expensive. I'm talking thousands of dollars, or drive across state by myself. And I did not want to drive 18 plus hours by myself with a whole bunch of stuff. I would obviously have to stop because I would not drive 18 hours straight through to Texas. So that discouraged me, honestly. So I just simply said, you know what, I'm not gonna do it. I'm just gonna have to eat the cost of getting everything shipped there. We're talking about $3,000 between my car and all my stuff. And mind you, at this point, I had already moved out of my apartment, so I paid movers to do that. I was paying for storage because I wanted the stuff that I did want to keep to stay in storage. I didn't want to sell everything, but I sold a lot of stuff, especially the big stuff, because I thought I was doing my due diligence. Unfortunately, I was not. It was still very expensive for a couple things, like a bed, my vehicle. I didn't have a couch. I had probably 1 or 2 TVs. It was literally like probably a room's worth of stuff, and they wanted $3,000 plus my car. So I thought on it. At this point, I finally stopped and I prayed on it. And I said, God, if this is not for me, even though this is what I thought I wanted and this is what I thought that I wanted for me and my cousin, unfortunately, I didn't move there when she was alive. But if this is what I need to do and this is what you're telling me to do, give me a sign. If this is not what you want me to do, also give me a negative sign. So I was thinking like a positive sign would be like a job offering, getting the place instantly, everything. Anything positive, I thought that would be the good sign to go ahead. So my first sign was, they say that when you pray to the Lord, your enemies can also hear, and they will bring you what you think is from God, and it's really not. And that's what happened in the situation. So I got the place instantly. I went there like a week or so before moving in. I did not tell anybody at all. I told, not even my mom. I told my mom literally like 3 days before I moved in when I signed my lease. I signed my lease before I even got to Texas to view the place. I just want you guys to understand that not only am I moving across the state by myself, but I signed a lease for a unit I did not even see. So I get to the unit, everything's great. So I'm thinking that's my sign because everything's going good. Credit was good, money's good, everything was good, instantly approved. No deposit, no anything. So I go there, everything's great. As soon as I go there, the building and everything is sketchy. The unit is amazing, but something's not right. So I go into the place, everything is fine. And from there, everything just goes downhill, honestly. The water heater breaks in the unit while I'm on my way traveling back. The rental car that I was going to get canceled on me because I did like a private rental for like Turo. I did like 2 or 3 of those, didn't work. My flight got delayed. When I went to go get like groceries for that day, the store was closed. I unfortunately couldn't get my rental, so I was stuck in a place. I went to Uber Eats, they canceled everything. Like I was literally just in this place left with nothing and no food, no nothing. I was forced to fast at that point. Like I was literally forced to fast to hear God. And instantly, this wasn't for me. Very loud and clear. This was not for me. This was not what he told me to do. Of course, being disobedient because this is what I wanted to do and this is what I told myself I wanted to do. So I'm like, no, that's not from him. I need another sign. At this point, we're like sign number 5 here of not doing it, but I'm still not listening and I'm still doing what I want to do. So we finally get to the biggest sign, and I honestly heard from God and my cousin saying that this is not what I have for you, and I broke down. I was very emotional and I was alone. And I broke down because I felt like I was supposed to. This is what I was supposed to do. This is what I had planned for so long. I started to think like if you were here sooner, maybe she wouldn't passed away. Maybe she would still be here. I was literally just thinking a whole bunch of different things to where I honestly wholeheartedly thought that this is what I was supposed to do, and it wasn't. At this point, I had already signed the lease though, so I was stuck. So I flew back here because I was just really going through it, going alone. I came back home, and this part, it was just temporary. It was not supposed to be me completely moving back home. I was only supposed to be here temporarily, just like finishing up some final things. So while I'm here trying to finish up some last minute things, the place called me like, hey, are you going to be coming back anytime soon? We came here because we had an alert that the water heater was leaking and maintenance went in, but they seen that it was completely vacant and looked like no one been here. They ordered parts, they came back. So at this point, it's about a week or two and no one has been in this apartment. So the lady at the office called me and asked me like what the situation was. I explained it to her and she's like, unfortunately in Texas, due to the high number of Airbnbs, and we don't do Airbnbs and subleasing, you would have to be here. Like, you have to actually be here. You couldn't just have a place here, even though you were willing to pay the rent. I did not know that. I was assuming, well, I knew eventually, of course, like, you have to live in your place. That's the whole point. But at the time, I was thinking simply like, hey, not that big of a deal. As long as I'm paying rent and they're getting their money, they don't care. But that was the complete opposite. So that was my biggest sign from God, is that was not for you. Because I honestly didn't know anything about that. It was not in my lease. I actually read the lease, but it was not in my lease. It didn't say anything about that. It just strictly said no Airbnbs. So she explained to me that it's considered subleasing, and if you're not there, you have to live there, or someone that lives in the state of Texas has to occupy the unit in order for it to work. So now I feel like this is where I jumped the gun. I knew I jumped the gun and I was in a big situation because I had already paid to move there to do everything. I had to pay to come back because I wasn't feeling it and I felt like that was not my sign. I did all of this for finding a new job, trying to figure out what's going on with my job. I was willing to give my job up at the time because I honestly felt like this is what I was supposed to do. And everything went downhill. All the good things that I thought was my sign to go showed me and turned negative and showed me that that was not my sign to go. It was actually not meant for me to go. And I broke down. I was frustrated. I instantly became depressed. I didn't know what to do because I gave up my place here. I gave up my job here. Like, I literally gave up everything here. I didn't formally give up my job though. That was a blessing in disguise. I didn't actually give up my job, but mentally I had already checked out and I had already began to interview other places. I have already set up my exit plan. I had already began to do the things that I needed to do to properly exit a job, and everything just turned for the worse, unfortunately. So long story short, I just broke down. I didn't know what to do. I prayed. And I prayed to God and I said, if you get me out of this situation, I promise to never do anything without speaking to you first. Only doing what you want me to do and you give me the okay to do. I fast. I was in my Bible all the time. I was crying. I didn't know what to do. I wasn't hearing him clearly. I didn't know what to do next. Blessing came. So 3 days, literally, that she said that she gave me 30 days to figure it out. Literally like 27 days. I didn't know what to do. I was crying. I didn't hear anything. 3 days before I finally had to give my decision, she called me and asked me what I decided. I explained to her and she said, you know what? Because she genuinely felt bad. She was like, you know what? The situation is what it is. Anything that you paid, unfortunately, I can't get back. But what I can do is we'll just terminate the lease. If you tell me right now this is not what you want to do, we'll terminate the lease. Anything you paid already, any moving fees, anything you can't get back, unfortunately, but you don't have to pay. I think it was like $5,700 that they wanted me to pay. It was like 2.5 months that they wanted me to pay for breaking the lease early. She was like, you know what, you don't have to pay because at this point I'm giving you, 30 days. That was the Lord. There was no one but God. So I came home. I was so disappointed in myself. I felt like I failed myself. I felt like I planned. I felt like I didn't know what I was supposed to say to people because I literally had a whole going away party. Like, I literally told people at this point, everyone was knowing. My mom was bragging about me. She was so happy that I made this decision because I was talking about this for years. So literally everyone knows. I was so embarrassed when I came back. I didn't want to tell anybody. When anyone asked me what was going on, I just kept telling them like, hey, I'm back to visit. But they weren't believing it at some point in time because they're like, okay, so you're just paying rent somewhere else because you're here every other weekend. And that was literally because I was living here, but nobody knew. At this point, I had to start all over. I was at my mom's house because I gave up my other place. And anywhere I applied, they denied me because it showed that I was still living in Texas, and I literally just signed a new lease in Texas because that goes on your credit report and they can see that. I was devastated. Like, I was literally devastated. I didn't know what to do. But I promised the Lord that if he got me out of this situation, I will ask. So I prayed. He told me to stay here as in like Illinois. But I ended up moving out of my mom's house, but I'm still in Illinois. Stay here in Illinois for 3 years. 3 years. Literally, that's the number I got. 3 years. Stay here in 3 years. For 3 years. So I'm like, okay. But mentally, I can't live with my mom. I have to, because it makes me feel like I'm not doing enough. It makes me feel like unmotivated, and everything that I did work for is completely gone. So I know myself, I'm like, I have to leave. I'm not able to stay with my mother because I'm not going to be motivated. I'm not going to do anything. I'm going to be in a depression. So I applied for a place. Mind you, I've applied for like 4 or 5 places. They all denied me because it shows that I just signed a lease somewhere else. And they're like, how do you have 2 different leases? Like, your income, all these different things. So I applied for the place that I have now. They told me that I was approved, but with stipulations. So I'm thinking like, oh my God, they're gonna deny me, or oh my God, I'm gonna go here and they're gonna want all this crazy money up front that I really didn't have, because I just had to pay to break my other lease at my other apartment place. I had to pay deposits for all these different things. I paid for storage for so long, and I also planned on leaving my job, so I was saving every dollar that I possibly could. I get here to just look at the place. Something tells me, just go. Don't jump to conclusions, just go. So I go. The property manager that I go with is someone that I went to school with. That was God again. Instantly approved me. I had to pay like $300, $500. That was the with circumstances or with stipulations or with conditions, whatever the terminology was. And I just broke down in tears because that was literally God. Like, there was no way that 4 or 5 places had already denied me, and this one place told me that they would give me the place, but with circumstances. And then it was a large dollar amount. But then when I get here, it's someone that I went to school with, and they're like, you know what, $300, $500. I can't even remember what I paid, but it was literally like $5 or less $100. And ever since, this is the place that I have been in, and I absolutely love it. I still only plan on being here for the 3 years, like God told me. I started to just completely give up everything that I want and all the ideas that I have for my life, and I'm just completely letting God take the wheel. He is going to control everything that I do. I'm gonna pray on everything. I've been fasting a lot. I've been in my Bible a lot because I just recently got to the point to where I feel like I can talk about it. So many other things happened, and I think I'm gonna do a formal life update, but I just wanted to get this part out because so many people have been asking me about that place. How do I like that place? What happened? Am I okay for moving back? Not knowing exactly what happened. Like, nothing tragic happened, but that situation just clearly ate at me because I felt like no matter which way I was going, no matter what way I was turning, nothing was working. I felt like I was at a dead end. I had to move back to my mom's house after I worked so hard to get out of my mom's house. I also turned 27, so I'm like, there's no way I'm gonna be 27 to 30 still living with my mom. Like, no disrespect or no shots fired for anyone that does, because now that I've been on my own for the last 4 or 5 years, I would go back to my mom's house. Like, it's ghetto out here. Rent is ridiculously high. So I have no problem. But at the time, the mental space that I was already at, I felt like a failure, honestly, because I had to go back to my mom's house. And I couldn't get the place there. I gave up the place there. And I tried to get places here, and they kept denying me. And I was just like really at a dead end. I honestly did not know what to do. So that is a story about how I moved to Houston. I literally lived in Houston for probably altogether, I owned a place for 3 months, but I really was only in Houston twice since I moved there, for a total of about 2 weeks. Each time that I went, it was for a week. And So I am using this. This is a part of my testimony to share the story with you guys. Don't jump and do things that you feel that you should do. And if you believe in Jesus, you believe in God, whomever you believe in, please talk to them and ask them what you're supposed to do. And make sure that you don't jump on the first opportunity, because the first opportunity is not always the best opportunity. And I am slowly starting to learn that. So if you guys like this video and you guys want a life update or you want to see more of my face, just make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.
In the dark, can you tell me what it means? I lay my head on my pillow, staring out the window, trying to stop for a sign.